I had a at this event recently, I had an on-stage debate with Mike Anton.
Oh, oh.
And he great guy, lovely guy, but he's still he's kind of a normie in some ways. And one of the sort of very cherished beliefs of the normie conservative that sort of they have in these dark times is that this cannot go on. And somehow shit is so fucked up, God is not going to tolerate it, and shit is going to break. And I'm just like, man, this is cope.
Yeah.
This is pure cope. And the future of America, the default future of America is very clear, and you can see it all over the world, and we've created it ourselves. It's called the third world.
Yeah.
And essentially you're going to see this country sink more and more into the third world. Moreover, and it's probably somewhere between 5 to 20 years, but I would guess it might even be sooner than this, and I would guess sooner. You're going to have this remarkable thing happen that is going to change this country forever, which is that the moral realization that we all have that ninguna persona es ilegal, that no human being is illegal, or to put it sort of more precisely, there is no moral philosophy afoot in the world today that convinces you that your rights as a human being should be different based on the GPS coordinates of where your mother squeezed you out. No one believes that. And because no one believes that, basically, it's very easy to look at our racist system of racist immigration controls and say this racist system was put in place by racists who wanted to be racist and really don't care about the GPS coordinates. That's just a proxy for racism. And guess what? You would be correct about that. So it's really very difficult to argue against that. You have no basis for arguing against that other than inertia. So sort of once the borders fall and the walls come down, you're going to basically see opposition. You're going to see this kind of geographical racism, let's call it what it is, will actually be retconned as a crime. And anyone who believed in immigration control is basically a segregationist on a national scale. And actually, once that change happens, and it doesn't require politics to be done, it can be done by the judiciary or even the bureaucracy, even the administrative state. Once that change happens, you're going to see these reports of 400,000 people entered the US illegally, last month or whatever. It's going to be 40 million.
Well, that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Well, that'll be fun. Exactly. That was my, and when you realize basically the scale, I mean, you're going to see basically giant, full Camp of the Saints. You're going to see giant freighters from Africa full of people who paid $100 each, disembarking basically on the beach right across the Mexican border and walking into this country. And, once that route is established, nothing could unestablish it, because that would why would you do that? It's pure racism. These people are human assets. And so, it's a very, very fragile piece of inertia that's right now keeping the US from having 1 billion people and being the capital of the third world. And what New York is going to look like when that happens, it's going to look like Lagos. Ever been to Lagos? You don't want to go to Lagos.
Have you been?
No, my father, it really pisses me off, actually. I'm mad at my past self because my father was actually posted to Lagos as a diplomat.
No,
I
really?
was in college, and I basically found excuses. I found excuses not to go to Lagos. But I really should have seen fucking Lagos, because it is
it's the fastest.
it's like, actually, I was about to say it's the ninth circle of. It's the fastest growing city in the world. I was about to say it was the ninth circle of hell. Really, actually, it's all the circles of hell. And it's heaven as well if you're super rich.
But you haven't
in any
been
country
there.
in the world. No, but I've heard about it from my dad. Which is a little different from reading about it in the New York Times. It's like he basically was like, actually the embassy, I believe now, has moved to the new capital. They created Abuja in the interior or something. I have no joke. I just like saying Abuja.
I bet you'd have a good time there if you went.
Yeah, I probably would. But the thing is, for example, the embassy had a dock on the lagoon. Lagos is named Lagos because it's on this kind of, fecal lagoon, and, the embassy had a dock on the lagoon, and it was like, how many bodies a year would wash up on the embassy's dock? Like 2 or 3.
Yeah, just get a big net.
Yeah, just imagine you have a house in Tahoe or something, and 2 or 3 bodies wash up, every year. Yeah, you just get a big net, or you just oh yeah, it's bloated with gas, so I'm gonna empty some shots into some for my AK so it sinks. I mean, like, this is a different, like, this is what we live in is not reality. Like Lagos is reality, and
right,
and so
it is. I mean, it's the fastest growing city in the world that has to be
the fastest
more
growing city
real
in the world
than what we experience, right? This is this is where
like,
most people want to go in a certain area.
Yeah,
in a certain
and
geography.
and if instead of being from the middle of nowhere Nigeria, if you, instead of going to Lagos, you could go to New York for an extra $200, you would scrape up those $200 and you would go to New York, and New York would once again be the world's fastest growing city. And the favelas and like that would surround New York would be utterly beyond description. We know exactly how New York's political system would work because we exported that political system to the rest of the world, where it works absolutely terribly. And yeah, of course, that would involve basically, the end of politics as we know it in this country. Not that politics as we know it hasn't already ended, but it would be obvious. It would basically turn the whole country into the political equivalent of California, the sort of final boss of a one-party state. And that, like, it's really hard for me to see what keeps this from happening. And
it's almost like it just should.
It's just inertia that keeps it from happening. And once it happens, basically all like good and people will be like, okay, yes, this is obviously the right thing. Like borderism, is just racism, and no person is legal. And how could we have, like, it's like people wondering, like in like 2016, how they were ever against gay marriage, right, or interracial marriage, or like any of these sort of battles that have been won will be won. This is kind of the final battle of sort of the progressive dominion.
Do you think it has that much sort of potential in terms of growth? Because to me it seems super stagnant.
What seems super stagnant?
In terms of just like pushing through things, whatever.
Well, the thing is, all you have to do to basically break the borders wide open is break shit. All you have to do is basically disable, a government agency, which is really not that hard. And so basically sort of cutting a hole in this already very flimsy wall that we inherited from like the 1920s or something is like very, very easy. And it's like, in Roman history, they had this too. They had what was called the Edict of Caracalla. The Edict of Caracalla, for like the last, was passed sometime in the early 3rd century, I think, and by Emperor Caracalla. And for the past like 400 years, the question of who was a Roman citizen, who was an Italian citizen, et cetera, had been very important in the Roman Empire. And Caracalla settles this, and he basically says, everybody's a Roman. If you're in Nigeria, you get to vote in Roman elections, right? And of course there are no Roman elections because it would be ridiculous, right? But you're a Roman citizen. And so essentially the extension of de facto American citizenship to the entire American empire, whether certainly that extension becomes a thing if they can actually get their asses onto the right GPS coordinates. But even then, it's just like, wow, everyone who believes in American values is an American, and they don't even have to believe in American values, so everyone is an American. And it's this sort of mammoth act of kind of imperialism in a sense, and it's absolutely the future. But let's get back to the info. I think